Frank Dukes is one of the most legendary producers of all time, pioneering the sample making wave. In this video, I'm going to take you along his journey and uncover the secrets behind his production. After starting his career flipping samples for the likes of G-Unit and Wu-Tang, Frank then launched the Kingsway music library, a way for him to share his own samples with the world. When I think of Kingsway samples, a particular sound comes to mind, something like this. Popstar's main sound is a piano, which Frank uses a lot, so to start our first beat, I put these chords down. A lot of the time, producers like Boy Wonder would only sample the smallest part of Frank's work, but having a longer progression like this gives whoever's flipping it more options, just like you'd have when flipping a real sample. To process the piano, I wanted to take inspiration from Untitled 07 by Kendrick Lamar.
Love won't get you high as this, drugs won't get you high as this.
As you can hear, it's super detuned, so I automated the pitch and the attack of ours, giving different notes different textures. One thing common across all of Frank's samples is how he uses distortion. So I did this compressor using the crunch knob, and I automated the timbre of this pitch shifting plugin to introduce more high end at certain points. As well as pianos, Frank loves to use synths. Popstyle again being the perfect example, as this is ambient whistle sound. I found a synth one shot from Layers Volume 3 and put this down. Layers Volume 3 is almost here and the free version is out right now. If you guys want over 120 sounds just like that completely for free, hit the link in the description. It's the ultimate multi-kit and my biggest one ever. Pretty much all the sounds I've been using in this video are from the kit. As well as getting the free sounds, you're going to get an exclusive discount code for the full version of the kit with over 650 sounds, and you'll also get early access. Hit the link in the description. Most of Frank's samples use minimal sounds, but making sure each one is used effectively. So to finish off the sample, I added in a perk and a bass guitar. With that sample done, I wanted to delve a bit deeper into Frank's dark Kingsway sound by making another sample just with synths. For some inspiration, let's take a listen to this ASAP Mob song.
Yeah, I can relate. Yeah.
Frank pushed the synth to its limits, really warping and detuning it. To make something similar, I started with a Layers Volume 3 one shot. Heavy compression and a chorus really brings out the dirty textures in the sound. Then I added in a distorted counter melody as well as this gliding lead sound. I love using one shots because you can add glide notes which emulates the pitch wheel on a real synth. After that, I bounced it to audio, chopped it very slightly, then reversed it and automated the pitch. I threw it in Fruity Slicer and added a bass underneath. Kingsway was a great way for Frank to introduce himself to the industry, and once he'd gotten his name out there, people began to pay attention. One of those people being The Weeknd.
Wasted times I spent with someone else.
Producing all but one of the tracks on this EP, Frank elevated his sound beyond Kingsway. These beats were more ambient and melodic, but still kept the same textures that Frank is known for. To start our sample, I layered 2 pad one shots from Layers Volume 3. Then I wanted to add some ambient vocals to fill the space. So I grabbed this vocal loop from Layers Volume 3, chopped it up, and filtered it out with a spring reverb and EQ, leaving us with this. Okay, so next we need to add more melodic layers. On Wasted Times, there's a very washed out, distorted synth that plays the counter melody. So I grabbed this one shot, distorted it, and then drowned it in reverb and delay. To carry on adding to the sample, I went to Sex With Me by Rihanna for inspiration.
Sex with me so amazing.
The harp sounds amazing, so I added something similar to our beat. For the final melodic elements, I wanted to take something from Astro Thunder.
See like the life I feed.
The pitch bending lead is such a Frank Duke sound, so I added something similar to RB as well as this Layers Volume 3 phrase. I just dragged it in as they all automatically sync to tempo, and it sounds like this. On Wasted Times and basically all of Frank's production, there's texture in the background. So I added this texture from Layers Volume 2 and it completes the sample perfectly. Like I said earlier, at this point in his career, Frank was more than just a sample maker. Alongside Skrillex, he did the garage drums on Wasted Times. I started with 2 hi-hats and a rim. Then we have a bunch of percussion. The key is to shift it really far off grid. And finally, we have a kick and synth bass. So we've looked back on Frank's career, but where is his sound in 2024? Now he goes by Ging and is releasing his own music. It's mostly acoustic, indie pop inspired stuff, and he used to produce similar stuff for people like Post Malone. The track uses these melodic chords with a distorted electric guitar. I added a bunch of effects, including a guitar amp for distortion, EQ, delay, and reverb to filter it out. Next, I wanted to add more vocals, this time inspired by planes.
Catch me rolling through the city, riding with the top off.
The vocals are super ambient and create a huge soundscape. So I found another vocal loop from Layers Volume 3 and started processing it with 2 reverbs and a compressor. It's important to put the compressor after the reverbs because it really brings out the texture from them. I also added a pan man and EQ. In Planes, Frank used this drone-like sound to add another dimension to the sample. Second to last, I wanted to add some percussion inspired by Fake Love.
I've been down so long, it look like up to me. They look up to me.
It adds so much texture, especially when you add more drums later on. And finally, we have a piano just backing up the guitar. Then we needed to add some pop drums inspired by Post Malone's Circles. These simple, punchy drums start with a kick and snare. Then we have a hi-hat, and finally a bass guitar. At every stage of his career, Frank Duke's samples brought something new and interesting to hip-hop. And there's always a certain few things that let you know it's a Frank Duke sample. One is his use of distortion and grit to create tasteful texture. He washes distorted sounds with reverbs and filters to create contrast. Another is the structure of his samples. Like a real sample, there are different sections for the producer to chop and flip. These things combined make Frank Duke's samples so legendary.